why don't you set up the conversation we're going to talk about today?
When our kids were growing up, we would bike up to Ben & Jerry's. The owner of Ben & Jerry's is a Christian, and I mentioned to her, I want to do a Bible study with some women that don't know the Lord and just see what God might do. Unbeknownst to me, that night, she sends out...
This week on the Reach Podcast. All right, I am here with Holly Worley. Holly's on Search's staff in Davidson in North Carolina.
That's
one
right.
of the prettiest towns you
It's
could ever
awesome.
go. It's like so amazing.
It's
I
awesome.
can't believe we get to live there, but right on the shores of Lake Norman, which is also so pretty. But we are not here to talk about that. We are here to talk about a conversation that you have had with somebody and learn how to share Jesus a little better. So why don't you set up the conversation we're going to talk about today?
Okay, sounds great. So, yes, I live in this little college town. Well, it's getting bigger now, actually. And when our kids were growing up, we would bike up to Ben & Jerry's. And the owner of Ben & Jerry's is a Christian, and I mentioned to her, hey, I want to do a Bible study with some women that don't know the Lord and just see what God might do. And so, unbeknownst to me, that night, she sends out the invitation to her entire mailing list.
Whoa.
And, yeah. And so I laughed and I was like, okay, Lord, let's see what you're going to do.
Yeah.
So 3 women that don't know each other show up. And so now there's 5 of us, and we are actually meeting in the Ben & Jerry's before it opens. And
That's just like mean. I mean, because you're there, it's tempting.
right.
Who's gonna eat? Well, maybe
Yeah.
some
Well, we
people.
finished
Did you
off
get
with
a
ice
little-
cream many times. Yes. And they all 3 of them, coincidentally, grew up Catholic, and nothing against the Catholic faith in any way, but it was really more of a cultural experience for them than a faith experience. And they're all midlife now. They all have kids, and they have questions about faith.
Yeah.
And so we just start looking at the Bible together. And it was beautiful and trusting. At different times we had little kids crawling around on the floor of Ben & Jerry's while we're studying the Bible. And we become really, really good friends. And we look at the Word for a couple of years together. Deep trust, you could see their faith growing, or their confidence in who God is growing. But I'm not sure any of them have crossed the line of faith. And one day I get a call from Judy. And now this is a leader woman, very accomplished, just an amazing person. And she is not herself. And so I go over to the house, and she said, I'm not sure what's going on. And she thinks it's a physical, well, she is having a physical experience, but it turns out it was a panic attack.
Whoa, and those can be so scary.
So scary. It can feel like a heart attack at first. And so first we go to the doctor, and then we end up with a counselor because it is a series of panic attacks. And Blaine, this is a really tough one, but I'm sharing it because this is the real life stuff we get into when we deep dive in relationship with people. And so it turns out after numerous months of counseling that she begins to remember that her father molested her. And the reason it was triggered, it doesn't get any more heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And the reason it was triggered then was her daughter had reached the age that she was when this was going on. So now you have this man who she really respects and loves. She's remembered this horrific thing from her youth that she had completely blocked out. And you have a daughter that's the age you were that you're trying to love. And so all of the emotional questions are pouring out. The physical questions are having to be dealt with. But now you have the depth of spiritual questions. And so naturally what starts to pour out is, how could God let this happen? Her husband's an atheist. So now, and real comfortable in that, saying that. And so now you have this hey, my husband is saying, see, there is no God. You have this daughter she's trying to care for, but you have a woman who genuinely wants faith. I can feel it in her, but has now experienced this, maybe the deepest hurt a woman can experience.
Hey everybody, I wanted to take a moment and let you know that the Reach podcast is brought to you by Search, a ministry dedicated to sharing Jesus through friendships and conversations for nearly 50 years. Learn more or get involved at searchnational.org. Oh, yeah, I mean, it's just sick and horrific. And
right.
You're right, these are the kind of things that if you're wading into spiritual conversations and you're getting down to why somebody struggles with
right.
faith, you will on occasion have stuff, if it's not this exact thing, you
right.
will have very serious, weighty, heavy things that come up. And for most of us listening, or at least us two here, but for most people, we're not counselors.
Right.
We're not trained to deal. I don't know how to help somebody work through that kind of trauma in the least, really.
Right.
But we're going to be in these situations where this comes up. And so how did you handle that?
Yeah, Blaine, I think you make a great point in that we don't want to try to step in and be a counselor, in terms of psychology. We don't want to step in and try to be anything except what we are, which is a true friend, trusted friend. So first of all, I felt so blessed that she called, that she trusted me with that information. And that was because we had now spent years together. And so we began, really primarily I began to just listen, because what she needed to do was pour out anger, frustration, confusion. And so I tried to at first just be a safe sounding board for all of those emotions, letting her speak let the anger come out, let the frustration come out, let the bewilderment come out. And when it began to drill down into, is God the Father like this? Then eventually, now this took, a lot of space went by, probably 6 months of her going to counselors, getting healthy, getting healthier, getting medication. Yeah. But eventually we just started looking at passages about God the Father. And then there's that wonderful verse that says Jesus is the image of the invisible Father, right?
Colossians.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, if that verse is real, let's look at how Jesus interacted with people. So we looked at times where the woman who was bleeding for years and years and years and snuck up on Jesus in a crowd and touched his cloak. And the first thing he said to her, I imagine everybody around her was furious that a bleeding woman had touched a rabbi. How dare you? And the first thing he says to her is daughter. And so we began to look at passages like that, the tenderness of how Jesus approached people. And it began to really soften in her heart.
Yeah, we talk about 3 barriers that there are to faith a lot. Part of our 1, 2, 3 that we talk about. They're probably sick of hearing about this, but good. It means you might remember it. No, but seriously, we talk about an emotional barrier, an intellectual barrier,
yes.
and a spiritual barrier. It's just categories to think through. Hey, what's kind of primary with this person that I'm talking to? Because the way that you respond to each of those barriers is different.
Yes.
And if you mix and match barriers and responses, it can really
go wrong.
Yeah. And so this is a good example of an emotional barrier where we would say the response to that is a loving relationship, a trusting relationship.
Yes.
They most need to experience a Christian who is different than anybody they've experienced, or just a representative of Jesus actually act like him, because they've been hurt in some way.
Yes.
And so it's what it sounds like you were doing, other people were doing, professionals, but this is one of those where, as much as we talk about apologetics and we talk about how to talk about the problem of evil and suffering, which this falls into, if you go into, let me break that down for you.
Yes. If you do
you
your
talk
5-minute talk on evil and suffering, it is going to feel so cold. And if you come in with, kind of legalistically slamming down verses, it's just going to, if I had been her and someone had come at me like that, I would have walked away.
You'd probably never talk to him again.
100%.
And that's
100%.
Maybe one of the good lessons of this is, as important as understanding some of those things are, and they're very important. We talk about it all the time.
Absolutely.
They have a time and a place.
Yes.
And you have to have the wisdom. I think you need to be prayerful in these moments. You go, God, give me wisdom.
Lord, show us the way. Yeah.
What do I say here? But it's interesting. I don't know when these podcasts will come out, but yesterday I did a podcast, more of a longer form, with Dr. Glenn Kreider, who's a professor at Dallas Theological Seminary, good friend of mine, great guy. And we're doing at some point a series on, like a mini series on a few big questions, apologetic stuff. And so we
that's great.
We talked for probably close to an hour on evil and suffering. How to talk through it but more from the intellectual, like, how do we as Christians think about this, and what are some ways we can learn to talk about it well? But I'm saying all that to say the bottom line is, we really don't have a great answer to that that gets real specific.
Right.
And so there's these kind of cases where you're like, somebody does want to know, why would God allow this? Dr. Kreider made the point that you may not want to know. Nobody knows.
Right.
Nobody. So there is
that's
no
the
answer.
truest answer. Yes. Yes.
There is an answer. God knows everything. He's not talking.
Right.
And probably we don't want to know why. But what we do know is God is good, and that God cares. He's aware.
Yes.
And he's ultimately fixed it through Christ and his first advent, and in particular his second, when he's going to come back and get rid of all evil. But that doesn't
thank you, Lord,
help somebody in this situation.
Does
that make sense?
Absolutely. I found that if I had tried to come in with, arguments and things like that it would have come off cold. But after some time had gone by, and I really want to emphasize that. This was probably 6 months in. She was ready to talk about spiritual things, not just pain and anger and things like that. And I found that talking about story, because we're talking about her story, and the story of Jesus interacting with some people, with some women, not really with me drawing the conclusions, letting her, I said, let's just look at the story. And that seemed to help.
Yeah.
So, but you're right. Coming in with intellectual answers, that would have been so painful. So this was years ago, and she texted this week and said, my dad died, and can we get together? And so I feel like God has been so faithful, Blaine, to walk a woman through maybe one of the darkest things you can walk through. And it's just a privilege that we have. It's a privilege that we have, and we have to hold it so carefully.
We do, and I'm very thankful that you're in her life and you get to have those kind of conversations. That is a big deal. So we covered a lot.
Yes, we did.
We talked about a lot. Boil it down. One thing, what would you like everybody listening to take away and apply as they go into their week?
I think when people are in the depths of pain, it's so careful that we just listen and love them. Be careful that we just listen and love them. I think there's a time for intellectual answers. And I think years later, they probably are ready to dig into some of that.
Yeah.
But when someone is in probably the darkest place they've ever experienced, if we're being trusted in that time, just love them. Just show up.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. No, great wisdom. And seriously, thank you for sharing this story and this conversation. And thanks for being here. It's fun,
Absolutely.
as always.
See you, friend.
Thanks for listening to the Reach podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. That'd be a good idea. Share it with a friend and leave us a review to help others find the podcast. Now, for more resources, please visit reachothers.org and follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and we'd love to hear from you.